Hello, everyone. We are here. We are so excited to be with you all today. We've got with us guest author Josh Barzon. How you doing, Josh?
Good to be here with you guys today.
Thanks so much for coming back. We had you on before,
hmm
and Josh, as everybody knows, most everybody knows, is a great author as well as internet personality.
Yeah.
we see. At least I see you on X a lot, posting all kinds of interesting stuff. Now, we're going to be talking about your new book, but I want to mention Josh's first book, The Forgotten Preface. We've talked about this on our channel before. This is a best selling book that he wrote a few years ago. And he was telling us before we started that this book still selling really well
Yeah.
consistently. So that is awesome. Did it surprise you how well the book is done?
Oh, very much so. I mean, initially it surprised me because it was just kind of a hobby book that I kind of wrote on a topic that I was interested in and was very niche as far as who I thought it would reach. And I realized, wow, a lot of people have connections to the King James or the King James only movement or
Mm.
are interested in church history. So it really became a surprise hit.
That's awesome. Now, did I pull up the other? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
pulled up the other book there. I sorry to do that while you were talking. I just was thought I
No,
was
you're
getting it
good.
ready, and it went right up there. But anyway, yeah, this is your other book, the new one, and so this is the one that we're going to be talking about primarily today. But the other book is really just a great topic, talking about the King James Bible. So I'm not surprised at all that people have continued to have a lot of interest in it. But this book too, you're talking about the history of English Bible translation. So um, you were doing posts on X on this topic. Now, did you actually, when you were posting that, already have like this book in mind, or did you do those posts and then decide to write a book?
Yeah, great question. It was definitely the latter. I did not intend to write this book. But about a year ago, I just started to do these threads on X, taking, the history of different Bible translations and going through the origin, the translation philosophy, who the translators were, what the impact was. And the first couple I did were, like the King James, obviously. I did like the ESV and the Geneva Bible, which we talked about last time I was on here.
Hmm.
And those exploded. Again, I was doing it just for fun and just to kind of stay sharp with my writing skills and research that I like to do on my own with church history. And some of those threads, I mean, within a couple of days, got 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 views. And I was like, man, people are interested not only in Bible history, but I think they are interested in an easy, like cookies on the bottom shelf kind of style of reading it. Like, yeah, there are books out there that are scholastic and academic, and I read those and I can understand them. But a lot of times it's kind of like really in the weeds for the average person. And that's kind of my philosophy with my content that I put out on X is I want to take complex issues and make them simple. Not dumb
Yeah.
them down. Like I'm going to still handle it with care and with precision, but I want, the average person who's new to Christianity and doesn't know all the jargon. I want the person that maybe doesn't have a college education, but they love God's word. I want them to come across my content and say, wow, like this is interesting. I never understood this topic before. And I get those comments a lot on my posts like, hey, I never understood this as simply as you put it. Like, thank you for, making this for the person like me.
Hmm.
So as I was posting these, I'm doing like the Bishop's Bible, the King James, the Geneva, ESV, etc. And people kept commenting and they're like, you should put these all together and like make a book out of this. You basically have all your chapters here. And I was like, man, that's a good idea. And I'm still paused actually on my second book that's now going to become my third book, which is the Forgotten Footnotes,
I've been
which is
waiting for
a
that book. I've been waiting.
I know it would have been out sooner, but this pushed it back because that one's a little more technical. I want to be very thorough with handling a very, very delicate and complicated subject
Yeah.
around translation and why the notes were there. Like I want to be very accurate with it. So this kind of became like a fun like ADHD deflection book to write. Some people get bored and play video games. I get bored and I write books. We all have
There you go. There you go.
ways that we waste time. I waste time by writing books, I guess. So yeah, it turned
Yeah.
to this, and this essentially is a distilled version of all of my threads, with the same format of the history, the translation team, the process, and then the impact, and then some fun facts about what I would say is every major Bible translation in the English language, going back to John Wycliffe to today.
Yeah, it is a really um I would say you really do a good job of giving a quick rundown and an overview of the history of Bibles and details about different Bible translations. It's not going to bog people down, like you said.
No.
You're really making sure just to give some of that major information that's going to be helpful, but not overloading people with information. So I think for lay people, it's just a fantastic resource.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
want to mention a couple things. One is, uh, as we go along here, if anybody has questions, we are going to pay attention to the chat. We love to have audience interaction.
Yep.
And I know sometimes you guys get in your side conversations, and that's cool too. But if
And
you
if
have
you
questions
do,
for Josh, feel free to ask. He said we can put him in the hot seat today and ask
yeah.
him anything. So
I
Have
was
at
just
it.
going
I'm
to
used to
say,
that.
sorry, I was just going to say, if you do have a question, put a Q in front of it just so we can pick it out easier from when you are having your own conversations.
thank you for mentioning that. That's a good idea.
It's just
And then,
easier to see, and I'll try and keep
that's
an eye out for them.
yeah.
Smart.
Also, Josh, you have a giveaway you're doing for this book, correct?
Yeah, so I just posted this today with that post here on X. So if you're not following me on X, go on X and follow me at Joshua Barzon. I do a very varied amount of content. I post, again, like threads on theology, church history. I do giveaways very often with very nice prizes like antique Bible leaves, premium leather Bibles that I get from publishers like Crossway, Holman, other people that partner with me sometimes. And then I just have fun. I do a lot of like fun engagement stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about later on, just to have fun. X is full of a lot of controversial and sad and frustrating things that are going on. And I try to be a bright spot with both encouragement and also with kind of fun with a lot of the stuff that I post. So this giveaway, I'm giving away 10 copies of my book, The History of English Bible Translations. And all you got to do is just follow me, like and share the post, and then tag someone. And I'll pull 10 winners on this coming Monday and then ship those directly to you.
Now, Josh, is this limited to the US only? Because we get a flux of viewers.
Oh, yeah. I will say I will make it within wherever Amazon has a distribution center and will
Okay.
ship to. So when I pick it, and this is like we talked about, Amazon prints this and then ships it to you,
Yep.
but they have centers all over the world. So I'm pretty confident that whoever wins, there's a shipping center that'll print one of the books for you.
That's fair. Sounds good.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I love international people. Enter if you're in the U.S. or not. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So you were talking earlier about fun things that you post, and I'll share something that you posted on X that I thought would be a good conversation starter here as we're getting going.
Yeah.
And it's an example of the kind of thing you post to get engagement. So you can only eat food from one zone of the world for the rest of your life. Which zone are you picking? And I think I know which one you ended up going with, Josh, but I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll let people I'll hold some tension there before you give an answer. I actually want to hear
What you got to
Nicholas.
do.
I'm curious,
So
Nicholas.
do
You
this,
wrote-
Tim. Click on the image so you can kind of see where they all intersect. Because I made this map on purpose that where they all intersect is very intentional. So you have to make some executive decisions based on what side of the line in Europe, especially, you land on.
Man, you even divided the United States there. We
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
we can't have everything in the U.S.
Yeah, I kept Tex-Mex below the equatorial line there.
Yep.
Ouch. Okay.
I'm already in mine. I'm an A.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah, you and I are in the same one,
Yeah.
Nicholas. That's cool.
Well, same location, but A might not be your choice. I like the food in A, so I'm sticking with A.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
go.
what about you, Josh? Where are you again?
So I'm an A as well. I'm in Iowa, so I'm there in the Midwest in the U.S. But I picked D for mine because for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love Middle Eastern food, so that just gets me right within Jordanian food, Egyptian food, all the different blends you get in the Middle East. And then I was born in Saudi Arabia and I lived in Egypt for 8 years of my life. So that food is very natural to me. And then,
Mm.
when I get bored of it, I can have Chinese food. I still got China there. I can have Thai food if I want spicy. And then if I'm really bored and I want some Indian curry, it's the trifecta. I got everything that a
Now
palate could want there.
wait a second here. I just thought of something. Isn't Australian just an extension of the UK? I mean, maybe I'm ignorant
Ooh.
on this, but the reason I'm asking is because wouldn't their food be similar to A? And then you get to have all of it because you know what I'm saying?
Nick, what do you say? I'll defer to you since you're our European liaison over there.
Bro, all I'm gonna say is Australia are basically our convicts. So, you know, we send
We're
we
gonna have to
send
get
all
the
the
other
folks we
Paul.
don't
We have
want.
to get the other Paul back here to defend his cuisine.
Hey, I'll be honest. I don't think Paul would defend his own cuisine. I think he would go somewhere else. So no,
That's funny.
Australian food's good, but like I do know a lot of them just love like barbecue. Like I know it seems like
Yeah.
a trope, a stereotype, but they honestly do. They just love barbecue. So
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with it.
And
Okay.
curry is very big in Australia as well. And I know that from an authority, a very reputable TV show called Bluey that my kids watch. And they eat curry a lot in that show, and it's based in Australia. So I
Okay.
be true if Bluey said it.
Yeah. Well, if it's blue,
Wow.
it's true.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm finally getting out of the loop on kids shows. For about 2 decades, I knew what was going on with the
Well,
kids shows.
hang on, all your grandkids, Tim, so you'll
Oh,
get dragged
no,
back
that's
in.
true. It's
Yeah.
probably
Oh
coming, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, another topic you brought up, is actually being brought up again by one of our viewers.
Well, before you
Uh,
move on, where were you? You never went.
oh, I did kind of,
Would you
I
say
did
an
kind
A?
of avoid it a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah.
Um, you know what I was thinking in the back of my head, which is really sad? I'm thinking what's kind of sad about, like, I don't know if it's sad, but it's just a reality. It's like we've exported all of our chains all around the world. So no matter which section you're in, you could still probably get, one of our chains of fast food or whatever. But as far as like indigenous cuisine, which I think is what you're really talking about here,
Right.
uh I really would have a hard time, to be honest. But I guess just I would have to be safe and go with. I mean, the only thing I guess I would be a little bit like, I will say Southern food, barbecue, some of the spicier stuff. I do really like that. One of the things I don't like about A is our food can trend toward the bland side. To be very honest, that's my only complaint. Oh, what are you shaking your head for, Nicholas?
You just haven't tried Irish food then.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's an
And you get
example of
look,
something that's not
you
bland?
get Italian, you got Italy, you got Spain, you got France. Like
Oh, you're
there's a
right.
lot of variety in there.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
German.
That does help. Yeah. Still, the southern US, that is but really every area does have some good things for sure, but I guess I wherever you grow up, I do think it kind of sticks with you. That's why it's so fascinating, Josh, that you ended up choosing D.
Yeah,
Um you were influenced by your past, right?
it's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the other Frisk here, he actually agrees with Josh, and he says he's in the D's as well.
let's go.
Yeah. And then we've got Colton there who says C is the best. Yeah, Colton. What do you know? Like where Texas is, for example? Speaking of Colton, that's what I was going to bring up before. Is he brought up a question that is, I think, related to the topic you brought up, Josh, on X. what is a theology that hurts people? Right? Isn't that a question you asked?
Yeah, I asked that one, and that got a lot of engagement as well, and was very eye-opening, but also sad realizing how much bad theology is out there. So I think I've answered it in a lot of different ways. I've given multiple different answers, but I would say one of many would be that you know, justification is free, but then your sanctification depends completely upon you to earn God's grace, to merit his favor. I
Mm.
lived a long part of my life that way where, I essentially had a ticket to heaven. I hate to put it that way because that's a very bad way to look at salvation, but I looked at salvation only as transactional and getting me to a different eternal state. But the life I live now was completely dependent upon me to live it in my effort, with my strength. And the gospel is not just for eternity in the future, it's for the eternal life that we have right now. uh
Mm.
you know John wrote, like, these things I write unto you so that you can know that you have eternal life. That's a present tense of having, not a future tense of you're going to have it one day in glorification. So
Mhm.
I think that's a theology that hurts people when they don't realize Jesus didn't just save them to be with them in the future one day. He saved them to be with them now in this life through the everyday struggles that we go through.
And you came from kind of a background, like were in different kinds of circles, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
did it
And I've
start
been in
with?
some. Yeah, so I'd say my life is in kind of theological thirds. So the
Yeah.
first third of my life was like very charismatic, kind of word of faith kind of movement. And we could talk about, like, gifts and signs and tongues and healing, and that's something else that could be a topic to talk about theology that can hurt people. But then the second third of my life was, you know, I would, to generalize it as easily as I can, very legalistic leaning views of sanctification,
Mhm.
of different preferences that would become doctrine that God didn't say, but they were preferences that became doctrine. And,
Mm.
that's kind of what I'm drawing upon very much so, of that section of my life of, looking at it. I'm doing these things, therefore God has to bless me. That person isn't doing these rules that we've made up, therefore God shouldn't bless them. It's
Mhm.
a very sad way to live your life when you kind of live off of a checklist of, like, I did this, so God better take care of me, and those people over there haven't done as much as I have. They don't dress the way I do. They don't listen to the music I do. They don't worship the way I do. Therefore, the God shouldn't bless those people. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's very liberating and freeing to come away from that kind of thinking.
Was that kind of thinking, um, was that widespread in both the charismatic and the Baptist? Was
No,
it in
I
both?
I would say that very much so is more in like the IFB, like Independent
Mm.
Fundamental Baptist
Okay.
movement. And again, I don't want to broad brush because, and I've written about this on X. I've got a whole thread on, like, the history of the IFB movement. There's lots of different camps. There's lots of different movements within it. But to generalize as a whole, I think there are some anomalies of people that are healthy, gospel centered people within the IFB. But I think as a whole, what people think about when they think of the IFB movement, it very much so leans towards that legalistic view of life and of worship.
Mm. Yeah, and I understand. So, I mean, I'm from an independent fundamentalist background, so I know exactly the theology that's behind that, and why it trends in that manner.
Yeah.
Um, I totally get what you're talking about there. Um, all
So yeah, I
right,
hope
now
that answers Colton's question.
Mhm.
that's a good answer. Yeah, I mean, Nicholas and I, we obviously talk about theology a lot on this, so I think we've answered that question uh,
Yeah, and
in various ways.
I was gonna say it's varied. Like there's sadly a lot of bad theology out there, and
Yeah,
basically anytime you manipulate God's word, you're going to be hurting someone. So
that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Now we're gonna pivot to talking about your book on
look,
English Bible, the history of English Bible translation. So I'm gonna put up the screenshot you have here of a sneak peek of the inside of your book, just so
Yeah.
people can kind of take a look at that. I know it might be a little small on your screen. I might be able to increase the
yeah.
size a little
Well, I
bit as
think
we talk,
yeah. Mhm.
um, but hopefully people can see that okay. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, um, what was the process of writing this book? I think you've kind of talked about it a little bit because you started out with putting posts on X, and then that
Yeah.
basically led. Did you for writing those posts though? Like, what did you do to research? And what like how did you go about researching for those translations? And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead
So
and talk about that.
yeah, um, a lot of them I already had a lot of tertiary knowledge from, and
Mm,
I would say it was a lot of what I knew and what I wrote about. I had a good understanding of it. It wasn't like I was trying to research a topic that I'm like, okay, I don't know much about the Geneva or the ESV.
Mm-hmm.
When I came out of King James onlyism, I had to be very thorough at looking at other Bible translations and figuring out where did they come from, what's the history behind them. So behind me, I've got a whole bookshelf full of books on theology, but also bibliology. One book I definitely recommend is I think it's David Brunn's. It's a book called One Bible, Many Translations.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Ward, his book authorized the use and misuse of the King James Version. A lot of David Norton's books, and he's written extensively on the history of the King James. He's a Oxford scholar and is the editor of the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible. So I would even say like Joshua Byers is a also graphic designer and a theology book writer. And I had it here. He's got a really good infographic book called A Visual Guide to the Bible. Trust what the Bible says, study the truth. And he's got lots of great like graphics in here that he designed himself, going over like where the Bible came from, different translations. So I had a good base already as it was. And then we just live in such an incredible time that I can go online,
Mm-hmm.
search a specific translation, even like with Chat GPT, like, hey, give me sources on the ESV that shows the translators, the background process, and boom, it gives me, sources that I can say, hey, give me like actual academic source, not just, somebody wrote on a Reddit thread. Like I want something that's from like a .edu, a .org, a dissertation that somebody wrote. And that allowed me to find credible sources a lot quicker than in the old days of having to go to the library or kind of vet all your own sources yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just living in the modern age and being able to have a wealth of sources to go through. I'd say the hardest part was, having to cut myself off on so much research from how much was available and being like, okay, each chapter I'm trying to keep to be like, 4 to 6 pages. So I want to condense it down. But I'd say that was the general background behind how I sourced and kind of researched my topics.
Mm.
Was it were there any translations that were particularly hard to research or were kind of a real learning experience for you?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the my table of contents. Anything that I wrote about, I definitely had a general knowledge of.
Mhm.
But I would say like, the NIV, I know about it, but I've never been an NIV user.
Yeah.
So, that was very interesting realizing how revolutionary the NIV was because it wasn't, like the revised version, all of a sudden getting kind of updated to like the ESV or the NASB being an update of the ASV. The NIV really was like a fresh translation with definitely a more dynamic philosophy of translating more thought for thought versus more literally word for word. So to me, that was interesting and also enlightening, kind of like looking at the history of the NIV and realizing that was for many people, that are over the age of 40, like it very much so was like their first modern Bible translation that they started to read and kind of grew up on. So that was very enlightening as I looked at that kind of chapter and research around
Cool.
it.
The NIV, I'm glad you brought that up because as you're talking, what strikes me about the NIV is that it really, in some ways, it's the first scholarly translation that doesn't trace its lineage to the King James. There were maybe some other Bibles, like the Living Bible, which was just a paraphrase. There
Right,
were Bibles like the NASB, but that traces its lineage to the KJV. The
right,
NIV was scholarly, but it was a fresh translation.
Yes.
And so it was the right thing at the right time. And the NIV was a lightning rod. I mean, it really did truly. It was like the translation that kind of displaced the King James in a sense. It
Oh
really
yeah,
did.
it became a more popular bestseller, I think, by the 1980s, and was outselling the King James just in terms of popularity and people buying it. So it was, yeah, definitely a very pivotal moment in Bible translation history.
That's cool. So that's just an example of the kinds of things that you researched and learned
Yeah,
about yourself. And so there's going to be a lot of you have in this book, and I know it may still be hard for people to see, but you have really like two main sections here. The first section is pre-modern English Bibles. The second section is modern English Bibles. So we'll take a little bit of time here if you want to highlight any Bibles from each category. So like
yeah,
I like how you have here the pre-modern English Bibles, and the King James is at the very end of that. It looks like.
yeah.
So you had to kind of make a choice, didn't you, as to where to put the King James?
Yeah, I put the King James definitely in pre-modern, and I think because you have such a gap of time between 1611
Yeah.
and then 1881 when the English Revised Version comes out, which, to be very specific, like the English Revised Version, still sounded very much so like the King James.
Yeah.
It was really a lot more like textual criticism that was done with newer manuscripts, older manuscripts that they were able to reference that the King James didn't. So even that you can maybe squeeze that into like pre-modern, but by the time you're in the 1880s, like you're skirting modern times. So I say that because the King James really should have a section of its own of being like a transitionary translation, because I always say this: nobody reads the 1611 King James.
Mhm.
I have a copy here of the actual 1611 King James, and I'll hold it up because I always like to do that. When you look at, and this one even it's better. It's not actually the Gothic writing, but a lot of what is written in here is the older spelling that we don't spell it the same way today. Phrases that will look different and sound different. So if someone still is reading the King James today, they're actually reading the 1769 Blaney
Mm-hmm.
revision. So I always like to point that out when someone's like, oh, I only use the 1611 King James. I'm like, no, actually, it's the 1769 or the 1901 Oxford update. Like it's funny to like know those kind of tidbits of knowledge. So the King James is, I mean, very much so a link from pre-modern to modern, and it kind of like rides that kind of road in between both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, in terms of its place in history, it really links up with those previous translations that you have there. But then you have that gap because the King James reigned, no pun intended, but it really did reign
Yeah.
in the English world for such a long
Oh yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I have a cool
Absolutely.
Bible up on my shelf, by the way, that is a Noah Webster update of the
Oh
King
yeah.
James.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which shows you that, like, on one hand, it was still the Bible for the English speaking world. But on the other hand, and this was in the early 1800s, it was already, and, based on the 1769 update, it was needing some updates by then. So then
Yeah.
you get to the revised version. But I don't want to skip ahead to the
Yeah.
modern ones yet. I want to make sure we spend a little time in the pre-modern Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm looking at pre-modern. My chapters here are Wycliffe's Bible, Tyndale's, the Tudor Stream, which technically includes the Geneva, Bishops, and King James, but I use that to kind of capsulate the Coverdale, the Matthews, and the Great Bible that all kind of borrow from each other.
Mm-hmm.
The Geneva, the Bishops, the Dewey Rhymes Bible, which I think is interesting to look at the Catholic pre-modern translation in history, and then the King James version. And I think it's interesting at the end of each chapter, I have some like fun facts about each of those Bible translations. And one that I'll read about Wycliffe's Bible. So Wycliffe's Bible, I had to make an executive decision too of which translation I'm going to start with as like the first English translation. Very technically, it's not Wycliffe. You have some pre modern English Bible translations before Wycliffe, but they're kind of piecemeal.
Yeah.
They're like books here, books there, like the Venerable Bede and Aldhelm, which I'm sure Nick, you're familiar with those. Like those were
Yeah.
English translations, but they're going to sound more like Beowulf. Like
Yep.
nobody today can read Beowulf the way it was written. So that even is like pre modern English,
Yeah, I think they call it
English.
middle English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. Yeah, I'm making up my own terms with pre here.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have anything to say about like Middle English or kind of like that
I,
style there?
I was honestly just going to say the reason the smile came across my face there is the Venerable Bede is one of my favorite theologians. So the moment you
Nice.
mentioned that, I was like, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Which just shows like such a rich history of theologians and Bible translators going back before the King James, hundreds, thousands of years even,
Hmm.
and you get to like even the Septuagint and things like that. But we're not here to talk about the Septuagint. So the reason I chose Wycliffe is because Wycliffe is really the first full, complete English Bible. And the interesting about Wycliffe's Bible is the Wycliffe Bible was translated under persecution. Wycliffe, as we know, was a vagabond running for his life. Later on in life, the Catholic Church dug up his bones and had them burned. They hated him and his translation so much. So because of that, no two copies of the Wycliffe Bible from that era are exactly identical. They were hand copied. Oftentimes, they have very beautiful illustrations in the margins around them, and a lot of times, the Wycliffeites and the people doing this translation work, they would hide the copies in their shirts and their jackets. They'd sew them into parts of their garments as a way to hide them. So I think that's just an interesting kind of history of like showing the beginning of the English Bible kind of began under persecution and continued even with like Tyndale and his persecution and onward from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is Wycliffe, who was
Yeah.
really early, 1300s.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
Tyndale, and I heard Mark Ward talk. I just happened to be watching a video earlier today where he said a lot of our Bible, even the King James, is from the work of Tyndale, right?
Yeah, 80 to 90% of what, the King James is, and I would even say modern English translations, the phrasing we read, is Tyndale.
Hmm.
Even down to like, Hebrews, one of my favorite passages, about like Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. That's a phrase that Tyndale like literally came up with. That the Greek there, I think a lot of other modern English translations will say like Jesus, the pioneer and finisher of our faith, which technically pioneer may be an actual closer version of like what the Greek word that Paul was using was. But author was still a word in English within the realm of what could have been used. So, Tyndale, I think, chose a more poetic, a more,
Hmm.
beautiful version of what you could use to translate that with. And a lot of those decisions stick around in
Mm.
other translations and they trace their way back to William Tyndale.
Yep.
That brings up a point though that's I know it's not popular for me to say this, but sometimes those choices, the semantic range of the word, in other words, what the word could mean back then is different than what it means now. And like you
Oh,
said,
yeah.
what was a poetic choice or a choice that made sense at the time sometimes isn't the clearest translation now in terms of the most accurate. And I mean, I
Yeah.
know that can rub people the wrong way, but that's where it's tough because people get so used to hearing it a certain way and they think
Yeah.
that's the right way for it to read.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think that hopefully as people read this book, it'll help them appreciate that really all translations are they're the work of different people from different times,
Hmm.
and they're a product in some on some level they're all a product of their time. Now
Yeah, they stand on the shoulders of
yes.
translations before them. And not to interrupt you, but like you said something like, what it meant then isn't what it meant now. And I'm looking this up because the passage that comes to my mind in the King James is Philemon 1:7, where Paul says, "For we have great joy and consolation in thy love, because the bowels of the saints are refreshed by thee, brother." And like, if to the modern day reader, like, I mean, that'll make you laugh. Like, oh wow, you
Mhm.
refreshed his bowels. Like, what does that even mean? Like, where your mind goes is like, okay, you made them go to the bathroom. Like, that's the effect you have upon the brethren. And that actually is what it means in today's English when you're reading it that way. But we know, in English previously, bowels was a way of like referring to your emotions, to your
Mhm.
heart, to,
Right.
the joy that you have.
Yeah, no.
And yeah, and it's like those are great things to know, but
Yeah.
language changes, culture changes, and therefore Bible translations must change as well.
Mhm.
Mark Lowry, a Christian comedian, had a really funny routine where he talked about how the Bible used other words in the original languages for the heart, to talk about
Oh,
deep
sure.
emotion, and one of them was bowels. And he began to sing different popular songs replacing the word heart with bowels. And then
Yes,
one of
yeah.
the ones he was singing was "I left my bowels in San Francisco." I thought that was so funny.
That's
Anyway,
awesome. Yeah.
No,
we have a question that someone
yeah.
brought up. Does the book talk about the history of Catholic translations? And you talked about it already a little bit with the duo rhymes, but go ahead and
Yeah. So I'm going to go to that chapter in my book. So I do cover the Dewey Rhymes Bible, showing the Catholic tradition and how they produced, a English translation as well, which was controversial at the time because the Latin Vulgate was the reigning normative translation at that point. Had been for over 1,000 years. So I do cover the Dewey Rhymes, and then I also cover like I hate to call it a Catholic Bible, but like the NRSV, which is ecumenical in its reach, but it is one of the Bibles that the Catholic Church, I think at
Primarily.
Vatican II in the 1960s or 50s, whenever that was, like gave permission basically for the Catholic Church to use the NRSV as an approved translation.
Yep.
So yeah, I do cover kind of the Catholic connections in Bible translation history.
Mm. Now,
but
in your sorry, Tim, go ahead.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, in your research of the DA rooms, did you? This is often reported a lot, but I haven't really looked into it. Would it be fair to say that the DA rooms was sort of like a reaction to the KJV?
Uh, I believe so, and I think even in the King James preface, they mention the work of Catholic scholars, basically competing back and forth, not even just with the King James, but even like the Bishop's Bible and the Coverdale before it. And there was kind of this reactionary back and forth of like, hey, well, if we've lost grip over the vernacular and people wanting it in English, like we need to
Mhm.
kind of have a foothold of what that Bible is going to be.
Yeah, it's just something I've heard repeated an awful lot, and it's one of those things where you're kind of like, that sounds true, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. And again, I think that's getting more into the deeper like cultural analysis of
Yeah.
like, what was behind the, the intent in this and that. I would like to look even more into that. This book really is a springboard to these conversations and those questions to say like, okay, well, what about this and what about that? And I hope these chapters like spark those questions and can lead to more conversations about the history behind those things.
Hmm.
And what I was going to say is that I think kind of the maybe the most clear answer to the question here is you are writing from a certain vantage point. I mean, you yourself are an evangelical. I'm not. Maybe I'm putting a
Yeah.
label on you,
No,
but
I'm a Protestant evangelical Christian.
right.
I mean,
So
yeah, I'm
so
covering
you
this
you
from
kind
that
of
lens. Yeah.
focus more on the translations that are well known in that world. Now that would
Yeah.
include some Catholic, but not that's you didn't like specifically cover the New American Bible or things that
Yeah.
were produced by Catholics.
I think it's important to realize too, like the history of English Bible translations has very much so been a Protestant endeavor. It's not like, well, I only covered the Protestant version, and a Catholic would have covered the Catholic version. Like it very is outweighing in the Protestant favor of, Luther was convinced, the we need God's word in the vernacular, and Tyndale, etc. So there definitely is a heavy load on the Protestant influence when compared to the Catholic influence on the English Bible.
True. That's a good point.
Hmm.
All right, back to your book. Uh, So you go from Tyndale to talk about the Tudor stream of, the Tudor stream, and you
Yeah.
have a few Bibles there. So why do you call it the Tudor stream? Because I didn't read that part yet.
Yeah, so the Tudor stream is kind of a generalization given
Hmm,
to Bibles that were translated during the Tudor era.
I see.
So that's why I'm saying even like the King James and the Geneva can fall under that title.
Mm.
But they're
Okay.
more noteworthy standalone, and I kind of wanted to condense this section to not draw it on too long. So the Bibles such as the Coverdale, the Matthews, and then the Great Bible. A lot of
The
them
Great
are
Bible
very
is
much
because it
so.
was really big, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's some differences, when you look at when they were printed that, were done between them. But it's very much so like like the ESV updates that have happened between
Right.
2001 and 2016, 2025. Like they were not major changes that I feel like warrant saying it's a completely different Bible. So I cover those because that very much so is like after Henry VIII's break with Rome and kind of that new,
Yeah.
Anglican
So
Church of England.
the mainstream English Bible is kind of forming through those years. It's kind of solidifying. And
Yes,
then you have, and I want you to contrast, as that's happening in the 1500s, you have the Geneva Bible and you have the Bishop's Bible. So I take the Bishop's Bible as being like, that's the Church of England's Bible, right? And the
right.
Geneva Bible is more like the what would you call it?
Common
The
layperson's Bible. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
It was
those
big
who
with
are
the
like,
Puritans.
say that again, Nicholas.
It was big with the Puritans. They rejected
Yeah,
the sort of, I guess, kingly language in the King James. They weren't big in that.
yeah,
yeah,
and maybe I don't have a good way of expressing it, but the way I think of it is like there are people who are like hardline Protestants, like really gung ho about the Reformation, and I feel like the Geneva Bible kind of fit that. Uh,
yeah,
Now, what I'm not really, I know the notes play into that a lot because the Geneva Bible had notes, and so, but what I'm wondering is, as far as translation, uh, is it a lot different? I think there are some differences that are pretty noteworthy between the Geneva and the bishops.
yeah. And they're going to come down more to like translation choices versus like, manuscript
Oh yeah, yeah,
backing. Like
yeah.
they both are very much so like based on the manuscript tradition that the King James would be based on, the Textus Receptus, your majority text, depending on where you want to land on which was more, connected to some of these translations in the pre-modern era. But the Geneva, I think, very much so was not even just the translation, but it is the notes. I think
Yeah.
that were very influential because they were very pointed against the monarchy and the crown and the
Right.
authority that the king had. I mean, literally to the point where in Exodus, there's notes commending the Hebrew midwives for disobeying Pharaoh and saying, and so thus should all other tyrants be defied as well.
Mhm.
Like, you do not want that in the state Bible in every church, in England. So I think more than even the translation choices, it was the notes. And I can say that definitively because when King James called the Hampton Court Conference and organized for the King James Bible to be translated, one of his rules was you're not to have any notes unless if it's to explain the meaning of the text in the original language. And he literally said, like, I don't want any of those notes that are in the blasphemous Geneva Bible. Like,
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
hated the Geneva
It
Bible.
was again. I can't think the best phrase, but I keep thinking kind of more hardline. Um, in a way, I don't want to say extreme. It's not so much that, but just
Yeah,
there were some theological emphases with those who use the Geneva Bible, whereas I feel like the Church of England always holds this space between Catholic Catholicism and a lot of the Reformation. Uh,
sure.
you kind of have it's. I mean, it is part of the Reformation for sure, but at the same time, the Church of England isn't quite as removed from Catholicism as a lot of other Reformed groups are, if that makes sense, or a lot of other
Yeah.
Protestant groups.
Right. Yeah. You definitely have a difference of like the Anglican Church versus, John Knox and, the Presbyterian Church and,
Right.
in Zurich, just the hotbed of like, Calvin and other reformers who would have had,
Right.
differences outside of a state church at that time. So naturally, the Bible translations are going to reflect those differences as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exact. So that's what I was going to get at, and I think you know it's great for people to hear this context. You have the English Bible starting to take shape and become solidified with all these translations that are essentially just revisions. It's not
Right.
like they're completely new translations. Even the King James, which we're about to get to, the King James is going to be a revision. But what's interesting is the King James comes about because you have those who use the Geneva Bible and you have Puritans who, again, are very,
They're
hard line in
anti-tyranny.
certain ways. Say that
Yeah.
again, Nicholas.
They're anti-tyranny.
They're anti-tyranny. Yep. And they also use certain words because of that, like
Yep.
maybe how they would translate certain words in the Bible that to the more establishment type Christians, they
Yeah.
they would they would be so King James is trying to bring these groups together,
Yeah.
and so really they're calling for a revision of the Bishop's Bible,
Correct.
right?
The King James is
Yeah,
essentially a revision of the bishops. And
yeah,
you're right, there are words that definitely were intentionally used or not used. Like for ecclesia, they very intentionally did not translate
Congregation.
as congregation. Yeah, because they didn't want that to spark the Congregationalists saying, like, look, we need a decentralized church not connected to, the Church of England.
Mm-hmm.
Baptizo being transliterated rather than translated into immerse, and then you have other words, even like elder, and other words that can be kind of traced back to, or maybe not elder, but I have a list that I wish I had
Mhm.
available, and it shows like the intentional words that were either left or transliterated because there was a nuance behind what that would invoke in people when they read that in English, showing like the word you read in English isn't just the word, it's also what people associate with it.
Mm-hmm.
So connotation is as important as denotation when you realize this is a book that could cause a revolution if people have a wrong connotation in their mind.
Wow, good point. And what's also interesting now that I'm looking at your flow here, and you have a timeline in the back, by the way.
I
There's
do,
some
yeah.
really great material in the back that if we have time, we'll get to that too. But what's good for people to see is that the King James Bible is kind of a bridge from all of this era of the Reformation to the modern translations. The
Yeah.
King James really served as a bridge and was the translation for the English speaking word. So clearly the King James project was successful.
Very much so, yeah.
As much as many people use the Geneva Bible, which they did, it ended up that the King James version, although I'm sure it wasn't. There were people, I'm sure, that when it first came out, criticized it.
So, and a point to that that's interesting about like how the King James gained dominance.
Yeah.
It did not start out dominant. It actually
Mm.
was. It was kind of a flop when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
David Norton talks about that extensively in his book on the making and the history of the King James Bible. And
Mm.
the King James, like with anything, when something new comes out, people long for what was traditional. They long for what was older. Kind of older becomes better just because they don't like the newer thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the example I would give, and I was complaining about this even on X today, I just posted and said, like, hey, who else hates iOS 26 and this liquid glass update that just happened on my phone? And I hate it. My phone almost feels unusable right now because Apple did this new liquid glass update and everything looks different. It feels different. I hate it. I'm complaining about it. But check back in 3 months and I'll be so used to it that I'll complain about the next update that they give saying, hey, I like liquid glass. Why did you guys do this? Like that's just who we are as
Right.
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
And the King James, I
Yeah.
think its rise to prominence was, I think there's a providential aspect of like, God obviously, is behind, translations that show his word and
Mm-hmm.
enrich and encourage the English church. But there is some human effort involved in it as well. The Puritans, when they came to America, the Pilgrims, they brought the Geneva Bible with them. They did not bring the King James. And that was after the time of 1611.
Mm-hmm.
But also along with that, King James started to impose tariffs on the Geneva Bible that made the Geneva Bible almost unaffordable for people that wanted it. So that,
Hmm.
coupled with the fact that it was also the sanctioned Bible in the churches of England, well, put yourself in the average person living in Manchester. Well, I'm going to church. The guy's reading from the King James. The Geneva Bible cost £100. The King James is virtually free. Like naturally, those economic factors also help the King James rise to prominence.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's something I talk about a lot. Is the Geneva Bible was made virtually unusable over here, and
Yeah.
the
Wow.
people were also, it sort of give away your the word I'm looking for. It sort of give away your theological bias if you use the
Yes.
Geneva.
Yep.
So you would have
Yep.
been looked down on in certain positions if you had a Geneva Bible. So they were often almost hidden in a way. So
Yep.
if someone had a Geneva Bible, they wouldn't have revealed it.
Yeah. Spot
Really,
on.
really, really interesting stuff. And my theory is that the way translations end up becoming highly used is they have to have this right mixture. And of course nowadays we have so many available, so they're hitting different demographics. But at the end of the day, they do have to have something that sounds right to people. It can't be
Yes. Yep.
too rigid. It has to somehow sound right, but it still has to be like there has to be something about it that rings as accurate. It
Yeah.
really has to sound like it's a solid translation. I mean, it's not to say that paraphrases do get used, but they never
Yeah.
become the main translations.
Mm-hmm.
People
Yeah.
really like something that they believe is reflecting the originals. But if you go too far with that and it's too literal, it never gains quite as much popularity.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's a good segue into like the second section of my book of the modern Bible translations. I think, one of the reasons that the King James was unrivaled for, hundreds of years, again, I think there is a providence factor behind it, but I think it's also historically looking at the reign of the British Empire. Between the 1600s to the 1800s, like that is, the dominant pinnacle
Yes.
of the East India Company, the
Right.
British reign, and the
Mm-hmm.
colonies, or their influence at least over what remained after America was established. So the Church of England has nothing to gain by updating a Bible. By doing a revision. Also, nobody's calling for a revision because it's in the language that everyone is speaking anyway. So it really shows, like, you get to the 1800s and you have, I think, a combination of three things. You have new advances in textual criticism. And I'm not an expert on textual criticism, but I'm also not a novice. Like I understand the manuscript traditions and the debates
Mm-hmm.
between textus receptus, critical text, majority text, and I have an appendix in my book talking about textual criticism and kind of the different schools of thought. And I think that can help anyone who maybe is confused as to what it means. Like, oh, this Bible is based on the TR, or this Bible is based on the critical text. So I'm not here to talk about that in depth because it would take too much time. But you have that as one of the reasons that we now start to see more translations as newer manuscript evidence. You have the weighting of the British influence over America, and over the Bibles being used in average churches in America. They don't care what the Church of England says. They're not looking for permission to get an update or a revision. And then you also have the third aspect, which is language changes.
Yeah.
By the time we're entering into the second industrial revolution and the more multicultural blending of America and different groups coming over, like, you have language changing coming into a more modern form. All of those were three perfect ingredients for kind of the explosion of people saying, hey, let's update and make the Bible understandable in the English that we speak today. And I would add one more thing. It then became a conversation of, hey, we can translate more literally or we can translate more dynamically. And you have Bibles kind of going those two avenues of more thought for thought and dynamic, or more word for word and literal. And that's where you kind of get to this section now on modern Bible translations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will say that everything you just described is a very slow process. It didn't happen overnight, because actually those first couple translations, the revised version and the American Standard Version, sound a lot like the King James. They
Very much
really
so.
retain. And then
Yeah.
when you get to the Revised Standard Version in the 19, what do you have there for the year for that? 1952.
Yeah.
That one sounds more like our English, but they
Right.
still, for the Psalms, use these and thous,
Yeah.
because, again, it's a slow process. It took the New American Standard up until the 90s to finally completely do away with these and thous,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
which,
I would add in there too, like, even in my section on modern English Bibles, you could almost draw a line of like early modern English Bibles, and then what I would say is like current modern English Bibles. So, I start off with the English Revised Version of 1881 to 1885, which, was sanctioned by the Church of England. And then you get the American Standard Version, which is just kind of the American kind of like, hey, we can do this as well. There's some changes that weren't made in the RV. And then, the RSV as well still sounds very similar to them, but it's really once you get to like the NASB, the NIV, the New King James, even the New Living Translation, those are kind of like the bedrock vernacular English sounding Bible translations within reason that kind of then sprung, I would say, like the third level of modern English Bibles of like the NET, the ESV, the CSB, the LSB. So you kind of have like thirds of even the modern English Bible section. And when I point out to people, because I come from a background of King James onlyists, they're like, well, look at how many times they're changing the Bible in just 100 years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look at all these translations. Well, I like to point back to the first section of my book and say, look at all these translations of Wycliffe, Tyndale, Coverdale, Great, Matthews, Geneva, Bishops, Dewey, King James, and that was all within 1 to 200 years. So history repeats itself, and updating and the Bible being translated and brought into the modern vernacular is not something to be feared. It's actually just a normal part of human history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're bringing up this subject, and I've noticed it's a touchy one. But when it comes to updates,
Yeah.
people, like you said earlier, people have a hard time, like you said about your phone. I think the King James translators have a phrase in the preface, and I'm paraphrasing. It's something like, the people don't like what they have, but they can't bear to have it changed. Right? Like
Yes.
they're not
Yep.
fully
Yep.
they're
Yep.
not fully satisfied with what they have, but they can't bear to have it changed. And it's like, that's so true. It rings so true.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
human problem.
Yeah.
it is. And I feel like one of the things that, I guess I'll just have to say it, even if it's not popular, Mark Ward really has shown me this, because it's really true. That language is always changing. And when you
Yeah.
say that to people who are conservative, and I'm conservative myself in many ways,
Yeah.
but
Same. Yeah.
when you say it to conservative people, they're like, no, language doesn't change that fast. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
had
it
a
does.
discussion on this channel a few months ago about the New King James, and I'm not an advocate that we update the New King James, but my belief is that the language has changed even since the New King James was
Oh, sure.
produced.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's undetectable, though, to you, if you like. I was born in the late 70s, so I can't actually even tell when I read it, but I know that if my grandson, as he's growing up, starts reading it, it's going to sound a little more dated to him than it does to me.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
Right? And
And I,
that's the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I would add this too. I would say the straw man argument made against modern translations is, well, if language is always changing and you're always changing the Bible, then at what point do you have a slang Bible that's just using like, skibbity riz Ohio, 67? And my answer is twofold. Number one, that does exist. There is a Gen
Right.
Z Bible that has been created, and it's a joke. Like it's kind of it's funny, and I would say like that's actually not a legitimate fear because slang has existed at every point of human history.
Mm.
Slang is specifically that it's slang and it goes away. think about slang from the 1980s and the 1990s. That's before even my time to some degree. But we can think about funny words like, rad or tubular or gnarly, like, California, surfer dude kind of words that come to mind.
Hmm.
Well, no translation used those words just to appeal to the base of slang speakers. There was still an average everyday English that was used even at that time. And I think it's what we have to realize is the slang words today among Gen Z, they're going to be, I mean, very like, not cool to use my slang in just 5 years, in 10
Yeah.
years. Like, Gen Beta is going to come up with new slang. So it just shows like there's an average English that is different than slang. That doesn't mean you have to translate the Bible into slang.
Hmm.
I do think it brings up an interesting question though, and I would grant this, that we used to have, as part of English, not only a formal English, but kind of there was a style of English that had a religious tint to it,
Sure.
and if that makes sense. And I do
Yeah.
think some translations, and I would actually include the New King James in that, that it
Yeah.
retains that, that there's
Yeah.
something like take the word brethren. Technically, it's not a word you ever use,
Right.
but it's really not hard to understand, and
Yeah.
it has a religious tint to it. It's something you would say in the midst of the church, and I wonder if that's part of what we're losing now,
Sure.
because and that's where I think the LSB was trying to mitigate that a little bit. Although it's interesting, the LSB doesn't use brethren; it actually uses
Oh,
brothers.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it shows you how hard it is. Language just keeps changing.
Yeah. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like there's something you
Yeah.
gain and there's something you lose no matter what you're transitioning to.
So let me bring up this question before you go, Josh, because I know in about 10 minutes you're going to have to head out.
Yeah,
But
you're good.
apparently, you might have said something in the chapter on, where you're talking about other translations, the BSB,
Yeah.
rooted. It says that it says that it's rooted in the majority text. So what did you actually write about the BSB? We can look it up if we need
So
to.
no, you're good. I have a just kind of a cleanup section in the back of my book of like other modern
Right.
Bible translations that I didn't cover, and that is like the CEV, Contemporary English Version, the Common English Bible, the Good News Translation, and then the Berean Standard Bible is a Bible that has gained a lot of foothold in recent years since 2016 among those who do favor the majority text, which
Hmm.
is different than the TR and is different than the critical text. The simplest way I can put it is, the majority text is looking at like the majority of manuscripts and the symbiosis that they have between them, not just, well, this one is older, even though it's not found in most manuscripts, therefore it's better because it's older, or the
Mhm.
TR, which, there are some suspect readings in the TR that are not in the majority text. For example, like the Johannin comma and the woman caught in adultery, those are included in the King James Bible, but those very much so like have more of a Textus Receptus tradition to them than a majority text. So yes, the Berean Standard Bible, if you go to their website, it very much so is a revival of a modern English translation that is rooted in the majority text translation or
Yeah,
manuscript
I'd
family.
I'd like to. I'd like maybe, Josh, as follow up to this, you could send us information on X
Yeah.
about that. And the reason I want to actually kind of echo this question here is, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought the BSB was more of critical text base for the New Testament, but that they were also, and it is the same group, are producing a majority standard Bible, and it's like going to be it's kind of its own thing. So, but
Yeah, I'll look
you
up.
can double check on that.
Yeah, yeah. Let me
The
touch back
beauty
on
of all
that, and
this is
I'll.
you have, you were telling me before we recorded that, you have the ability to make changes in your book, right?
Correct. Yeah, and there's more I'd like to add and expound. So where if there's a second edition, I can add in a section here or there.
Hmm.
But I from what I've looked at with the Berean Standard Bible, the 2016 edition on. How I even heard about it was on a majority text Facebook group that very much so was like promoting it because they very much so care about, the majority text. And this is a Bible that could be used among those that adhere to that belief. So yeah,
Huh.
I'll follow up and I'll give you some
Yeah.
information and some
It could
sources
be one of
showing.
these. It could be one of the problems is that the Berean Standard Bible is, and I've said right from the beginning, like the Berean Standard Bible is not very clear on where it even comes from. I mean, like
Right.
it comes from Bible Hub, but what I mean is it's kind of like this group that has started these projects, which are awesome, by the way. I think the
Yeah.
Berean Standard Bible project is awesome, but it is confusing because they
Yeah.
started out calling it the Berean Study Bible.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they have one coming out called the Majority Standard Bible. And then they have the literal standard. Yeah, what is it? Is it called
Yeah. And
literal?
it
It's like
might
the
be
BSB
semantics.
literal. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it might be
it's
semantics of like
confusing.
which edition under the Berean umbrella we're talking about here. So
Exactly.
there definitely is a
Exactly.
majority text version that I'm referring to, but
Okay.
it could very much so be true that there's another offshoot that is critical text
That's what I'm
based.
wondering. Yeah,
Yeah, so who knows? I might put a thread together on X and cover kind
that'd
of
be good.
the
That'd be
differences
good.
between those.
Because
Yeah.
because there's definitely interest in this translation. Someone asked, um, have you used the BSB? Which apparently you probably don't use it.
No, I am not a user, and I have not used the BSB. So that is definitely one that I like to cycle through different translations at different times, and I'd like to take a year and go through the BSB kind of as
Mm.
a main translation for that year.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm getting some feedback too that Colton says BSB is not directly majority text. The Majority Standard Bible is the
Yep, and I think
Col-
maybe it's mixing up those phrases
yeah,
of
and
MSB,
that's a branding
VSB.
that's a branding
Yeah,
issue, right? Like where it's
yeah,
because they're an umbrella that are kind of doing different things within that umbrella. Which again, I just want to say they're doing awesome projects.
oh yeah,
Like they're
yeah,
serving a kind of a gap that needs to be filled because there is a
yeah.
demand for a majority text Bible for sure.
Yeah, and
So
that's why I
they're
cover
working on
that
that.
is literally it's a paragraph in the other English Bible
Hmm.
translations because
Yeah.
I don't know enough about that to write a whole chapter on it, but it's gaining a foothold to where maybe in 5 to 10 years, if there's a second edition, it might warrant an entire chapter at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Colton, I'm finding like I could interpret this in all different ways. Are we basing this on Bereans, or you're saying it's like they're based like? And did they just say like a bunch of based things in this translation? Um,
Yeah, that's why I kind of skirted away from this as touching on it too much. So yeah, I'll look into this more. Only a paragraph, if even that, in my book that I cover on this.
yeah, he
Well,
does. He
here,
says it's a joke. Yes,
It
I
is a
think
joke.
that's funny. That's funny.
well, there was a question for you in the beginning, Josh, that we missed, but
Oh,
it wasn't related to
I
the topic at the
missed.
time. It's way back in the beginning. I've got it here anyway. So this is from Just in Time,
Is
and he
it this
said,
one?
"Yeah, are there paraphrases that you think are pretty solid? It would be used as a resource to help a young man with a learning disability."
Mm.
Yeah. I would recommend to that person and to that question the NLT, the New Living Translation, which there's debate over, is it a translation, is it a paraphrase? I think an argument can be made both ways. It very much so is more of a dynamic thought for thought translation. I use the NLT often to reference, to look at a book of the Bible, and I'm going to preach through it or study through it, and I read through it to kind of get a good full sense of it, and then I'll get a
Mhm.
more balanced or more literal translation to kind of do my deeper digging in. But the NLT, I mean, my kids, they're kind of getting to reading age, and I very much so will probably have them start off reading the NLT. Right now, they have a NIRV, New International Reader's Version, that my 7-year-old is just kind of starting to dig into. So I would say between the NIRV and the NLT, those are very good options for someone maybe very new to the Bible as a whole or with a learning disability.
Yeah, NLT is one that gets ragged on a lot, but there's a professor we had over here, and he really stands by the NLT, not as like your everyday Bible. He uses it more kind of like
Right.
you were saying, he would use it devotionally, but he's even pointed out that there's numerous places that, because it is more sort of thought for thought, that it actually does stand very strongly with the intent of what the original language was. So he would say it's
Right.
actually very good to use devotionally. And if it
Yeah.
is someone with a disability, I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna let Josh go, and just so everybody knows, Josh has a new baby, right?
Yep.
So
About 6 days old.
things are a little busy at the house right now. So before you go, I did want to put up this comment from Tony. He said he spent all day reading your book, and I would encourage
Awesome.
all of you out there. Sorry to block you off, Josh, with the graphic
You're
there.
good.
Here. But I'll encourage all of you to read this new book by Josh Barzon. The History of English Bible Translations just came out, right? Just came out.
A week ago.
And
Yep.
where can people get it?
Yeah, so it is on Amazon as paperback, and then also as Kindle ebook. And hopefully, in the near future, I'm going to have a Audible version with a professional voice recorder who recorded my first book, The Forgotten Preface, and we may be getting him to record this book as well for an Audible version.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
That's
great stocking stuffer. If you got a friend who likes theology or the Bible or reading for Christmas, it's a stocking stuffer priced and stocking stuffer sized gift that, get a bunch of them. Give it to your pastor, give it to your elders, give it to any of your nerdy theology friends that you want to put in their stocking for this Christmas.
Yes, and definitely want to encourage people to get this book. It's a nice. I don't want to say this in a negative way. It's a easy read in the best way
Accessible.
Yeah,
possible. You know,
yeah, that's what I intended it to
yeah,
be. Yep,
it's digestible, right? It's something
yeah,
that even
yeah.
though you're learning history, it's not overwhelming. So really good. It'll really help people get a good overview of Bible translations and get a handle on it. Josh, I really can't thank you enough. I hope you'll come on again sometime,
Oh yeah.
because we're going to have to talk about your next book that's coming out too, The
Hey,
Forgotten
I got
Footnotes.
more. I got more time now that I got a book published. So definitely not in 2026, but maybe let's say by this time or by 2027, we can have book number 3 to talk about.
All right, sounds good. Well, we'll let you go
Yeah,
to your baby and
awesome.
help your
Good
family
chatting to
out
you, bro.
there. Yes, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
appreciate you guys. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas to you,
Christmas.
brother.
See ya.
Bye.
I posted a link to his book in the chat, Tim, but I do not think your chat likes links, so I don't think it appeared.
Uh-oh.
That's okay.
You
It's
posted
okay.
it. Sorry.
Well, it's fine. I think all YouTube does that unless like the person's a mod on your channel or whatever. But people know where to pick it up anyway. Just type in Josh Barzon. Although I think he's Joshua on Amazon, so Joshua Barzon. And
Yeah, Amazon's pretty flexible. So if you
yeah,
put Barzon, Barzon, and English Bible translations, the book I'm sure will come up just fine. And he said it's on Kindle. That's what I
paperback.
have, a Kindle version and paperback. Did he say hardback too?
Let me just double check. It does say it's available in multiple versions.
Probably.
So
That's what's great about the Kindle books. And you behind you, while you're looking,
I would say
you
yes.
have a book that's out in paperback, hardback, and Kindle as well.
No, not Kindle. Not yet.
Oh, not Kindle.
No,
Oh, I
I
thought it was on Kindle.
no, not yet. I've had a couple of people ask me if I will do that. But I would need to go in and edit my manuscript to do that because there's no
I
point
see.
including blank pages in a Kindle book. So it
Yeah.
probably will come out in the new year. But if people are interested in hearing
Yeah.
about my
Do you
book,
have a copy handy that you could show the audience? Because I see there's a lot of people watching right now. And just in case they haven't heard about it,
well,
we're selling books right now. That's what
if
this
they
program
haven't,
is.
what they can do is they can go to Colton Yarbrough's channel. He just had me on last night to
Nice.
talk about this book. So if you want to get it, that's it. Available in the hardback, and the paperback is right there. So
Nice.
it's a little devotional taking you through book 1 of the Psalms. If you want to pick it up, it's also available on Amazon. So get all the books this Christmas.
Well, we just had a great conversation about Bible translations with Josh, and we could have definitely talked a lot more with him. But if you guys have other questions, you got Nicholas and I to
Yeah, we can do
try to
a
answer
we can do an
questions.
Ask Me Anything stream. We haven't done one of them in a while.
But I'm sure we'll take some time here to just debrief about what we did talk about and any other topics that we want to cover. I think Nicholas, you're not really much on X right now. You've kind of taken a break from it.
I was meant to be off for Advent. I popped on again in this last couple of days, mainly because the Muslims were acting up, and I decided to debate a few of them. So I've thrown my hat in that realm. And by the way, folks, if you're watching and you are a Muslim, I am currently offering a £1,000 challenge to you. If you can show me in Scripture, not in the Talmud, not in a commentary, show me in my Bible where Rebecca was 3 years old, where she married Isaac, I will send you £1,000 completely to you. So that's your
Wow.
challenge, my friends.
£1,000, and that's pounds as in money.
Oh, as in the money, yes. So this has been a very popular talking point at the moment, because there's a lot of Muslims trying to defend Muhammad by saying that Rebecca was 3 years old in the Bible. So they have £1,000 challenge on their hand. I had one Muslim that tried to take me up on it the other day, and he failed miserably.
Okay, yeah, I've been seeing maybe some. I not that specific topic, but
Well,
okay.
they've been very vocal this last couple of days. There has been a big movement of
Oh,
pushback against Christians, um, basically on different topics, but because they are getting so cooked by the Islamic dilemma, they are trying to come up with what they're calling the Bible dilemma, but they have failed in every format. So the reason why they're trying to push the narrative that Rebecca was 3 years old is they think, okay, well, you have to stop criticizing Muhammad for marrying a 6 year old if Rebecca was married off at 3. So it's like,
hmm,
okay, show me from my Bible where Rebecca was 3.
yeah. Okay.
Very,
Well,
very, very strong 3 year old removing the stone off the well,
I guess
looking
so.
after her
Wow.
father's camels, drawing water for the men at the well. That's a powerful 3 year old.
Oh my goodness. All right. So here's a question for you. Where are you from?
Ireland, my friend, Ireland.
He doesn't just fake the accent.
Well, you see, a lot of people, I think, today I got the biggest insult of my life.
Oh no.
I was given a super chat to a fellow YouTuber, because he has like a given goal. He's another apologist, and he was doing a given goal, um, and he hadn't scheduled his stream, so like his viewership was lower than normal, and
Okay.
he normally has a given goal that if he gets 5 super chats, he will end up doing an extra stream. So I just decided to give him 5 random super chats. Then he insulted me by calling me an Englishman, and now I want my money back.
Oh, it's an Irishman.
I
Get
think
it right.
I think he got confused because he saw the currency and he was like, "Oh, you're in England," and I was like, "Oh, never given to you ever again."
So you're part of the United Kingdom, but you're not that united. Yeah, I
The
understand.
Irish and the Scots get on very well. The Welsh stay by themselves, and the English are like, eh. Although I like Tony. Tony's a good Englishman.
You see my brother, hey Alan, commenting here.
Is really in Pittsburgh? No, definitely not, my friend. I have somewhere else in the States I would rather be.
I was going to say actually that we have a little bit of rivalry sometimes here in the state. I can understand.
Oh yeah.
Like if you live in the north,
Sorry, I'm
there's
just saying the other Tony. The other Tony, he's come in with the worst insult. I'm telling you, Tony, shocking.
what does he mean by that?
It's just a joke. Like we don't really like. Let me clarify. The English and the Irish historically have had a lot of bad blood between them, mainly to do with the troubles over here. Um, So nowadays, like my sort of era, like we kind of joke about it all, like don't call me an Englishman or whatever, but we're not actually being serious. Like I don't hate English people. English people don't really hate the Irish. However, there is a history behind the stereotype. That's why you often get the joke, "Oh, don't call me an Englishman" or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tony clarified there too. He said the English have managed to upset everyone at some point or another. Which again, all jokes aside, they technically have.
Well, they were a world dominating power, so
Well, the UK was not necessarily England.
not just England.
England itself. Yeah. Put it this way: I know Englishmen that would say that the English as like a people group can be a bit pretentious. So like if you've got your own people saying it, there's something to it.
Well, fortunately, as an American, we don't ever struggle with hubris.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. All right, so we do have a question about Bibles. Colton, uh, been awesome to see you there in the chat today. And we're going to have Colton back on sometime. I'm going to put that invitation out now.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the go-to study Bible for each of us?
I think I've told both of you guys before. I'm not a big study Bible fan.
Nicholas doesn't need study Bibles.
No,
He's got it all up there.
it's not that I don't need them. It's just I'm going to be honest. Study Bibles are incredibly biased, even when they try to be ecumenical.
Hmm.
They often have a bent one way or the other. So, like, if I was going to use a study Bible as a resource, I wouldn't limit myself to just one because I would want more opinions than just that one Bible. So I wouldn't have one that I would go to. Although one, I'll take that back in a sense. What I will say is one Bible that I would recommend people get is the Reformation Heritage Bible. Whether you're Reformed or not, that's not the point. This was put out by Joel Beakey and Reformation Heritage Books. That thing is fantastic. It's got a lot of family worship guides in it. It's got church history in it. Now, it is only a page per century of church history, but all it's aiming to do is just give you a rough overview. So I would say that for that reason. But the reason why I don't like study Bibles is there's a meme out there and it's incredibly accurate. It's a picture of this guy like name a random passage and he's like, I bought this Bible to finally get a translation note on say Genesis 22:7. Looks up the Bible for the note and it's like no such note and it's like just throws the Bible from us. It's like, nah, great. Wasted my money for the translation note and it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, study Bibles can sometimes be a letdown.
Yeah.
Sometimes they actually avoid getting into certain issues. Yeah, and I find I've looked at quite a few study Bibles over the years, and I feel like what happens in America is, we produce a lot of stuff here, of course, and the predominant one of the predominant. I'm not going to say. Well, I guess it's all how you define it, but a large part of Christianity here that is producing stuff is evangelical Christianity. There are a lot of study Bibles that would broadly fall into the category of evangelical Christian. The NKJV study Bible, the NIV study Bible, even the ESV study Bible.
Yeah.
Zondervan has I can't think of what it's called. It might just be the Zondervan Study Bible. There's so many that the HCSB study, or the CSB Study Bible.
Yeah.
They say similar things, really.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. So some of it just gets into they're kind of a lot of overlap, and they're all pretty good. That being said, out of those that I mentioned, out of kind of the evangelical ones, the ESV Study Bible is more my preference because it's thorough and it does tend to lay out some of the arguments from different sides. It doesn't just say here's the view we're going to give you. It actually will say here's one way people interpret it, here's another way people interpret it, especially on really hot button issues. But still giving kind of a broadly historic evangelical, rooted in Protestant tradition, but obviously it's not like a hardcore reformed theology.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think
Yeah.
ESV Study Bible, but again, it depends, because if it's for me as a pastor, I have, and I know Colton, you're the same way. As a pastor, you have commentaries, so they're going to go much
That's
deeper
what I
than
was
study
going to say.
Bibles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. See, that's why I'm not a big. And again, if people want to get a study Bible, go for it. But I just find, like, while they do have valuable information in them, they are also limited, because you think you've got. So some study Bibles have the articles, they have maybe illustrations in them, but then when it does come to the notes, which a lot of people buy the study Bible for, you have to remember it's trying to give notes on multiple pieces of scripture throughout that chapter alone. So the verse that you may really want a note on to study might have like a sentence, or even less than a sentence, and you're like, like, I really want. That's why I was going to say my go-to there, you see, would be I just use the text of the Bible, and then I'll go look up multiple commentaries, and even deeper, I'll go online and search, hey, what's the Wesleyan view on this? What's the whatever view? We now, like Josh said it himself, like, not only do we have commentaries and stuff that we can access, but we also have a glut of information quite literally at our fingertips. So
Mm.
I don't think study Bibles will decrease in their sales all that much, but I honestly would just recommend people, you know, either
Yeah.
get one study Bible that they really like, or commit to, just using multiple commentaries and stuff, which is what I do. So,
Yeah, and I think for lay people, study Bibles can be extremely helpful.
mhm.
As well as, I'm going to be sending like a kind of a bulk shipment of global study Bibles to some Kenyan pastors, because they need more theological training there,
Mhm.
and they would agree with that. They would tell you that. So I think for people who need to kind of, it's like we were talking with Josh Barzon today about his book, and how it does a really good job of giving you kind of a good overview of Bible translation history.
Yep.
And study Bibles are really good for just like being able to build a broad foundation of like seeing how it all fits together, getting the general background of the books. So I do think study Bibles have a place. I
Oh
would
yeah.
just avoid study Bibles that are maybe, you know, they're maybe from a certain perspective that is just really like questionable, like,
Mhm.
maybe there's a certain teacher that's like, and I know that's a pretty charged thing to say, but there are teachers out there that have their study Bibles, or groups that have their study Bibles, and the interpretations really are just aimed to kind of espouse their
Mhm.
specific theology. And I'm actually, I don't know, maybe I can just say a name as an example, because I had one for like reference that I someone gave to me. It was like a Joyce Meyer study Bible, and it's like, yeah. So yeah, yeah. So that's the problem with study Bibles, is they can sometimes just be a tool to kind of push a certain group or a certain person. Now
It,
let me say something to follow up, because MacArthur study Bible, you could argue that that fits that what I just described, but MacArthur, in my opinion, uh, is actually reflecting a whole group of people's theology.
mhm.
And I think that if you look like the Master's Seminary, I think they have a big part in producing things like that. I don't know how all of that was produced originally, but I think that MacArthur, like that study Bible, if it didn't have his name on it, if it just said the Master's Seminary Study Bible, it would still reflect what that institution teaches. So,
Mhm. Well, just for any of our audience that are worried, don't worry. After the stream's over, I will bless Tim with holy water in the name of our triune God after mentioning Joyce Meyer's. But
No, I said I
whenever
don't advocate that Bible.
just I'm still going to bless you, brother. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Um,
Just for good measure.
yeah. So like, look, here's where, and I know we've got other questions. We'll come on to these now as well. But let me just say this on the study Bible thing. Here's where I try to be consistent because I have said I do not like study Bibles. Now, I'm a big fan, big supporter of next week's guest. If we announced that yet, or am I spoiling anything?
No, I'm glad you brought it up because I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
forget to I'll
Well,
work on getting the slide up here.
fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
we've got Matt Everhard coming on again, and I am really excited for whenever he finally comes out with his Jonathan Edwards study Bible. I will buy a copy. I will look at it, but I will then be very honest and I will tell you people that Bible will probably be given away to someone who'll get use out of it because I know I won't use it. But the reason why I want to buy it is A, because I want to support the work of someone that I genuinely do benefit from, and B, I'm interested in actually seeing what's in it. But once I've seen what's in it, I will give the Bible away because I don't need another Bible. I certainly don't need a study Bible. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can be very, well, I'll maybe just speak for myself. We can be very against something. So like while I'm not against study Bible, someone could look at me and go, you know, he's not a study Bible guy. But then I could go and be a hypocrite and be like, oh, Matt Everhard's coming out with a study Bible. Can't wait to pick one up. That would be me being hypocritical. I'm going to pick one up because A, I want to support my brother. B, I am interested in seeing what's inside it. But C, and here's where I'm going to be consistent, it will be given away because I'm just not a study Bible guy. But it doesn't mean that people can't love and pick up study Bibles. So, uh,
Absolutely. It's a great topic, and I'm glad Colton brought it up because people always are wondering about good study Bibles.
yeah, and it
So yeah,
sparked a good bit of chat there too. Like your brothers even mentioned, you know, that there are archaeology, church history, men's issues, chronological study Bibles too. So like those can be some very good niche topics like archaeology study Bible. If you're big into archaeology and you know apologists love archaeology because like we love pointing to that as evidence. So like there is good uses to them. I just personally don't find uses for them, but you know.
yeah. Now, it's interesting. Someone actually mentioned, and I appreciate this comment. This is really interesting that the Master's Seminary is due to put out a new LSB study Bible early next year. That's interesting, and I wonder, is that going to be um, like in any way a revision of MacArthur's, or is it something completely new? Again, I would imagine the theology in that though is going to be really right in line with MacArthur. So
I
I
don't
think,
know. I think it won't be far off, but I think they are distinct in a few areas because, like,
hmm,
MacArthur's made it clear. Well, sometimes it's funny. I keep talking about him like he's still here. He had made it clear that he is a leaky dispensationalist, but the people at Masters don't hold the same eschatology as MacArthur. So on that issue, I don't know. I think they probably would be different.
I still think they're dispensational,
Not in the way MacArthur is. Like even in
not leaky. They're not. They're unleaky
well, no,
dispensational
no, in the sense of I don't have it anymore, but I had one of the original MacArthur uh,
study Bibles.
study Bibles. Thank you. I got lost in my words there for some reason. And there was certain points in that where he noted that you know I'm gonna mix something up so nobody take this out of context. This I'm not saying MacArthur said this, but like say for example whenever it came to the mark of the beast, like MacArthur would have took like the stance on it, but then he specified then okay people at Masters don't hold this view, he holds this view. So I don't know, I think there's certain areas where it may
Yeah.
not. And again, LSB has done a very good job in, not in a bad way, because I don't think
Mhm.
they're definitely not doing it in a bad way, but they are doing very good at distancing themselves from MacArthur,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
been seen as its own product now.
Well, I think you're right. That is good because it's one of these catch-22 things. MacArthur putting his name on it helped it for sure. I think it helped get it off the ground. On the other hand, it sometimes limits it because I actually saw a comment the other day on my channel someone put a comment and said, "I'm not going to get an LSB because of John MacArthur," and they think that John MacArthur somehow made the translation, and it was really the scholarship at the seminary there. MacArthur, I'm sure, you know, looked at it some, but at the end of the day, it wasn't like it had to pass whether he felt it was it wasn't all up to
From
him.
what I know, he was quite involved whenever they first brought the New Testament out. But then, whenever the full translation, the Old Testament stuff came out, he stepped away at that stage and was
Mm,
like, okay. Now, looking back on it, that may have been health reasons.
I
Now,
think it was health
now that
reasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
but at the time, it was more presented as he's going to step away because we want this to be seen as its own thing rather than the John MacArthur Bible.
Yeah.
So,
Now, did you see the comment there for you from the rebinder there, the Hope family?
Hope
You
family,
should you
no,
should you should read that comment.
I'm
I
coming.
won't put it up here because I don't think it was meant to be public, but um, yeah, I think a good example
No,
though.
no, I'll take you up on that because I've got
Yeah.
another one. I've got another thing I'm working on as well, so that might be beneficial. But yeah, I appreciate it as well. So thank you.
Oh, I was gonna.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, go you ahead. I was on one because I was going to say something after, but go you ahead if this is related.
It was just about MacArthur and his involvement in the LSB because I actually did a video a long time ago about MacArthur actually said in his study Bible that begotten is not really a good. He actually says it's a mistranslation, is the way he puts
Mhm.
it, because he's very, he has a very stark way of putting things. He said only begotten is a mistranslation, but the LSB says only begotten. So
Mhm.
it's not like he was like, nope, you can't use only begotten. That's not a good translate. It just shows you, like, at the end of the day, they kind of made some choices that aren't strictly speaking in line with what MacArthur might himself say.
Yeah, and again, I know we're still on the study Bible topic, which is fine because I do see there's another question about translation here as well. But here's where I'm really not a big fan of study Bibles. I hate when a study Bible is named after a pastor. So, like the MacArthur Study Bible, the Charles Spurgeon Study Bible, the Tony Evans Study Bible, whatever it is. This is a personal thing for me. I'm not binding anyone else's conscience to this, but I think I don't like it. I don't like having a man's name
Yeah.
plastered on the Bible, that the Bible belongs to God. And those men I just mentioned, it's not that they believe they own the Bible or something. I'm not making that argument. I just don't like it. To me, it seems a bit gimmicky.
Mhm.
And then the other area that I fall into, and I'm really glad um, that I encountered this years and years ago. I hosted an apologetics conference over here, and I was able to bring James White over.
Oh,
And
cool.
he was signing a lot of books for people, and numerous people asked him to sign their Bible. And he made it very, very clear he will never sign a Bible. And I could tell it disappointed a few people, but there was also people that walked away who said, you know what, actually, it's maybe a good idea that he didn't sign a Bible.
So,
Um,
so is this off the table?
Absolutely, absolutely. You trust me, you do not need a study Bible
It's
from
not.
me.
It's not your name though. It's just the layman apologist. That could be interpreted as any layman.
Well, true, because one of the things we want to do here is that's why there's a
Right.
small team developing because the layman apologist technically is you, the people.
Yeah. There you
But
go.
what I mean though, but is you're never getting one directly from me. Like I'm
Right.
I'm proud of the title layman. I think I'm well read. I think I'm well studied. Do I have the answers to everything? Absolutely not. But to do a Bible note system, you do not need my notes in that, folks. Plus, the other thing that I take very seriously as well is I often try and distinguish between teaching because teaching is anybody that technically gets online and presents apologetics or theology or whatever. They are teaching. However, there's two distinct differences in teaching. There are those who teach authoritatively. So your pastors, you submit to them because they are your authority. If you come on and you listen to me and Tim, now Tim, it's a bit different if one of your congregation come on and listen, like they can take what you say authoritatively here too. But what I'm saying is, say you come to my stream or Colton's stream. Colton's a pastor too, so that doesn't work. I'll just stick with me. If you come to my stream and you're listening to stuff I said, I will always tell you, well, I'll not say always, but I say the majority of the time, please go away and run this past your pastors. Don't
Mm.
take what I say. I am not your teaching authority. Because I often then get people coming on and complaining at me as well, being like, but you are teaching. And I'm like, well, yes, of course I'm teaching, but I'm not your teaching authority. So don't treat me like one. So that would be another reason why you would never see a Bible note thing
Mm.
from me. So no,
Right,
definitely
right.
not.
But
Definitely not.
the main thing is you're just not really in favor of individuals putting their name on a Bible.
I just don't like it. It
Yeah.
seems just, in my opinion, it seems a wee bit, what's the word?
Pretentious?
No, it just seems a bit disrespectful to
Uh,
something that we consider our holy book. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
like,
It's
why would
it
I
is a
think
little it also to me strikes a little bit against what Paul says where he's talking to the Corinthians, I'm
you're
of
not on
Paul, I'm of a
Paul? And
can
yeah,
you imagine the Apollos study Bible, right?
well, that's why I do think it's a little bit what is sacrosanct the right word there? Is that what I'm thinking of, or is that
I'm not sure.
sacrilegious? Sorry, sacrilegious. It seems a
Okay,
little bit
sacrilegious, yeah.
yeah, it seems a little bit like I'll keep it on me so I'm not insulting anyone that's already done it because I'm not going to speak ill of the dead like MacArthur or anything. I just would look at that and go, who in the heck am I that I would put the layman apologist on God's holy word?
Yeah,
No. But I know those gentlemen that do have their names on study Bibles. The key part for them is study Bible. They're only laying their name to the notes. I'm just saying, I personally do not like it.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was there a question in this, chat that I
There,
missed?
there, there was. I'll get it for you now. It's going to be a very short answer because I know nothing about it.
Oh, we'll just
Hang on 2 seconds. Was it that far back? Yes, it is. So Orthodox Philip said thoughts on the upcoming New Rome Press Bible, LXX, and Patriarchal Text Translation. Uh Orthodox Philip, brother, I have not heard about it, but I'll go away and look at it. And you pop over to my channel the odd time too. So if you ever pop into chat in one of my next streams before we come back, I'll give you my thoughts on it then. But Tim, you heard of it?
nope, sorry. I'm definitely not a good person to ask,
Well,
on that.
yeah. Well, as I say, if whenever I think I'm going live tomorrow, so I'll take a little look at it and let you know my thoughts then, sure. Or if you next see me here on Tim. So then I see Sam said, I like my ESV study Bible, except when it skips over the verses, I would like more info. And yeah, that's exactly what I was saying too. And it's always the way, it's always the verse that you want more clarification on. And it's like, I can't. It's been that long since I used the study Bible. I can't even think. But some of them are just like, this is a disputed text or whatever, and it's like, yes, that's why I want info on it.
Yeah, now typically I would say the ESV Study Bible doesn't shy away from controversy, but I can imagine there are some verses that for whatever reason they just decided not to include a note on it. I'm sure.
You see, that's why I think that's what I said by bias earlier. I don't mean bias as in like they have got a particular theological bent,
Yep.
which I mean, like I'm sure the individual team do.
Oh
But
yeah.
what I mean by bias is though, but they might look at a certain note and be like, okay, yeah, like there's because they're in a room. Well, the majority of the time anyway, but like they're in a room, they're communicating with one another back and forth. They might look at it and go, is there any need for a note here on Genesis 22:7? And people go, no, I don't know. Like, I'm fairly sure that's straightforward. So that's what I mean by bias. The note that you might personally really want could be something they've looked at and go, I don't think anybody will have any need of that. So
Mm.
that's often what ends up happening there. So By the way, Tony, I see your comment where you said I was just joking. I know you were, but I'm just saying definitely, definitely never on my end.
So I think this is for us.
Hmm.
From now, are you? Uh, this they mentioned you before, Nicholas. So is this someone you know? The Hope
Yeah,
family
well,
member?
tell you, I do know them, but I know Hope Family Boundary through Colton's channel. They
Ah,
very kindly did a beautiful Bible for Colton, and then they've just offered a while ago there for me as well. So
very
Hope
cool. Do
Family
you know where
Boundary,
they're
thank you very
located?
much. Huh?
Do you know where they're located? If you want to let us know, Hope,
Yeah,
where
yeah, they can if they wish. But what I would also say is please go over and check them out as well. They're on Instagram, they're on X, and I do believe they have a YouTube channel. So go check them out. But
are they?
to the
Texas?
question,
Oh, Michigan. Okay,
there
they
you
said
go.
Michigan.
Yeah, there you
Very
go.
cool. All
Hmm.
right.
What
Boy,
do
that
you
makes
think?
me think of Dave Delfino. Cherry Hill Bibles. I feel like he up in Michigan too, or somewhere
I
there.
know Cherry Hill Bibles, but yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. The reason why I'm really grateful for their offer. I don't know why that word came out weird there. Is we only ever had one guy, and Tim, you know him. You mentioned him as I think it is pronounced Moses, but it's spelt like Moises. But
Mhm.
Moses Garcia, he was the only guy that was doing rebinds over here. We have never had. I say never. I don't mean like ever, ever, but I mean as long as I've been in the Bible reviewing scene slash collecting good Bibles. We have never had a bindery over here other than him, and then he just disappeared off the face of the planet. Like just packed up,
Oh yeah.
didn't give any information why he was stopping.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Um,
I've went way off
I think
topic.
I think yeah, well, we will answer this question, but
Mhm.
Hope Family Bindery said that I think they're talking about Dave Delfino
Yeah, he's
actually
not
is
far.
not far. That's cool. Um and yeah, so I don't know, have they ever actually been on Colton's channel or just
Well, to my knowledge, they have not been on Colton's
okay.
channel, but they sent Colton
A
a
nice
Bible.
Bible. Yeah, that he
Colton did a
reviewed.
review of it, but
Yeah.
I would say Colton would probably do an interview with them, and Tim, I think we should as well. It'd be good to get a
Well,
bit of.
yeah, I'd be very open to it. I was gonna say though, I've had rebinders, and I think this happened certainly with Tim Wildsmith. They'll send us a rebind, or we'll do, and Tim Nichols too.
Mm-hmm.
Here's actually the challenge that I don't want this to sound like self-aggrandizing, but what happens is when you have a certain size audience, if people see a rebinder's work on your channel, all of a sudden they'll get flooded with requests.
You don't need to bribe me. I'm already planning on doing a Bible for you.
Well, you may not if he's yeah. Just listen to what I'm saying here. What happens though is like you put it on your channel, or you talk about them, and then they get flooded. And I've seen Bible rebinders literally they've had to stop. They literally had to stop because they were doing like, and again, I'm not talking about this particular rebinder. I'm just saying it has happened. It's a really tough thing in the rebinding world where there's a delicate balance. You
Yeah.
can have too little business, but you can easily have so much business that it's just overwhelming.
Well,
And
here. Sorry. Go ahead.
we still haven't answered his question. Maybe we should do
Well,
that, and then we can
well,
get into
we'll come to the question, but seeing as how we've moved into this territory, part of the reason why I said we should interview them is I love Bible rebinds. Like that's originally why I started YouTube. Like I was a Bible reviewer. That's how we met him. So the beautiful thing about it though, but is I agree with what you've just said. I saw one guy on Instagram who went on whose channel was it? It might have actually been Bo Tate's, and he blew up. It was Frost Leatherwork. He doesn't do them anymore now because he can't even get through his emails. Never mind a Bible rebind. But
yeah.
what I'm saying to you is, here's I think a smart thing that comes into practice is if for whatever reason you do blow up to the part where you cannot, keep up with the orders, the best thing to do is actually do what someone like a Jeffrey Rice does. Say, look, this year I have 50 slots open for rebinds.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's right.
Anything else I make,
Yeah.
which is not as personal, will be available on my store. You can go ahead and buy the more
I think
generic rebinds.
a lot of rebinder. And by the way, I'll just mention Hope Family said that they partly haven't sent any because they don't think that I find that hard to believe. I've seen I think Colton showed the rebinder.
I've seen their work. It's good.
It looks great. But anyway, he says that he doesn't do commission work yet either.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But he does have a lot of people asking for commission work.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's wise. I would say really set up a good system, and what you just advised. And I am noticing rebinders are starting to adjust. I think early on we were in the kind of the wild west of
Hmm.
rebinding. It was like this new thing and everybody was testing it out. But Tim Wildsmith did a really good video confronting this issue that rebinders, some of them were getting burnt out, but they
Yeah.
weren't following through with. I mean, literally, people sent Bibles and then they weren't seeing their Bible come back or something like that.
That's why I really like Jeffrey Rice's system of, look,
Yeah.
here's my website, or well, he does it through a website, obviously, but you fill in a form and say he literally only opens up, now he does a lot more than 50, but say he only opens up 50 spaces for the year. It is quite literally on his form system, first come, first served. So you don't actually send him your Bible until your spot's confirmed. And then you don't send him your Bible until your time period then is coming up too. So like I could get spot number 50 and Jeffrey could reply to me and say, look, at the speed I'm currently working at, the way things are going, your Bible will be ready to begin production, say September next year, so 2026. So even though my spot's confirmed now, I don't send my Bible to Jeffrey to maybe August of next year. So I think that's a really good way for Bible rebinders to do it, and Jeffrey is the man to learn from in that regard. Like, he's
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I've noticed some rebinders really have a good handle on
Hmm.
like the business organization side of things.
Yep.
Another one is Scriptura Bibles, which used to be Paul's Leather Company. They have a
Yes,
phenomenal
yes, I forgot about their name change.
organization, the way that they do
Mhm.
things. They're pretty big though. I feel like they have a pretty big operation now.
They got big, not primarily, but it certainly helped. I don't know if you know him. There's a YouTuber called Jason Mayfield. He
Oh
was a
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah,
he was a big Bible reviewer at the time. Now, I like Jason as a person. We have an awful lot of like disagreements theology wise, but as a person, lovely dude. And he really kind of blew them up originally, because
yeah.
before they were Scriptura, they were Paul's
Paul's
Leatherwork and
Leather.
Co. And his channel. Now, I'm not laying it all at his feet, because it was obviously Paul's work as well, but views wise, oh yeah, he
Yeah,
blew them up. So
yeah.
us,
So
we've
let's
all
answer
we've
the
all
question. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say we'll get to the question. What do we think of the NET Full Notes Edition? I use it quite regularly, but not from a physical Bible. So people often ask me, what software do I use when I'm doing my streams, because I can pull up the Greek and the Hebrew. I actually use something called Bible Lumina. But it's not called Bible Lumina anymore. I had it back when it was, so mine still reads that way. It's now been bought by the guys at NET, so it's their stuff. And you can search it up. Let me just check the name of it here while we're talking. So Tim, you can go ahead and give your view while I look this up.
Well, something that popped into my head about the something that popped into my head about the NET
Yeah.
Full Notes Edition is there's a Bible reviewer named R. Grant Jones.
Yes, I know.
Really, really good reviews. Very thorough,
Yep.
incredibly thorough person. I don't know what the guy does for a living. Is he an engineer or something? But
I think he is. Yeah.
he might be. But man, I love just how detailed he is, and he
It's also
just did
very
a
relaxing to watch.
yeah, he has a very chill
Hmm.
demeanor. But anyway, he just did a review of. He had a hardback copy, but I think he got maybe a leather bound version or something. He did a review of one recently that I was watching, and yeah, I would say check out his review because it's going to be really thorough. I've reviewed
Mhm.
it too, and I use it online. I mainly, I think that's what you were saying. I use the online because it's kind of large, having all those notes.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's just netbible.org,
but the notes are great.
yeah.
Whenever people are asking a question in a Facebook group about why did someone translate it this way, or why does the Bible translate it this way, I'll go to the NET notes, and a lot of times I'll find the answer to that person's question.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a really good resource if you want to know why or what the issues were, like why maybe does two different translations translate it two different ways.
Hmm.
Go to the NET notes and you'll probably discover why.
Yeah. Um, but as I say, back whenever I originally had this software, because it's free, it was called Lumina. But if you go to it now, it's just netbible .org. But it's really, really good. And they don't just have the NET on there, they have the King James, the NASB, and the ESV. So,
Yeah, and also Bible Gateway has the NET on it. That's actually a lot of times where I'm look because they have every translation practically, and that's
yeah,
another place.
the only thing I don't like about them, though, but is
Too many
they're
advertisements.
well, there's that. That part doesn't bother me as much because
Okay.
if something's free, I expect
Yeah.
adverts. Even though Bible Lamina doesn't, to be fair. But um, what I don't like about it is whenever you go to copy and paste from them, they embed all the metadata on it. So you will have in between the verses like you know the way sometimes you get the A because the A is related to footnote A and then
Yeah. True.
footnote B. So like when you copy and paste it, it's not
Mhm.
just pure text; it's
That's
all
true.
the metadata. So I don't like that part of
Yeah.
it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But also, Hope Family Boundary, you haven't derailed the stream at all. Like
No.
this is what we're here for. It's a bit of a ask me anything. But they also said, where is it? Thanks, but I'm a perfectionist, so I hate my own Bibles. Being a perfectionist is a good thing and a bad thing. Like it's a curse and a blessing. Like there's certain areas in my life where I'm a perfectionist. There's other areas where I'm just like, it's good enough.
Right. Yep. All right. Now we've hit the 2 hour mark, so I want to make sure we show this screenshot or this post
Mm.
of Matt Everhard's new book. He's going to be on next week. Now,
Regular time,
I
isn't it?
I know. Here's the thing that's hard. We actually have a lot more viewers right now because we're on a Friday evening,
Why do you
and
think
I
I
feel
stream on
bad.
Fridays?
Yeah, I will say, we're planning to do it Wednesday. But if you don't catch it on Wednesday, you can still watch it any other time. So if for some reason you're not there live, check it out next week. After we'll be on Wednesday, so anytime after Wednesday, it'll still be up on the channel under the live section,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna do a long form interview with Pastor Matt Everhard. He last time he came on, he talked about his book called Worshiptainment,
Yep.
where he's critiquing some of the modern worship practices. But this one, he's talking about the need for courage, and I've seen some of the things that he's posted about courage related to this book.
I think this might be the first book of his that I will not have read by the time we interview him. Now, I know I've only done 2 interviews with him. Well, three because I did one before back on my old channel. But yeah, I don't think his book will be here in time for me to read it. So
Will you read the entire Jonathan Edwards study Bible before he comes on to talk about that?
no. And
Probably
I
not.
will also be honest with him. I will tell him I will take a look at it. But yeah, me and study Bibles.
So he says his new book, Bold as the Lion, Christian Courage in an Age of Cowards, is now available on paperback and ebook. You can grab it on Amazon, and that's the whole cover art there. Looks awesome. So he just came out with. Everybody's coming out with a book right now, except for me. I really feel
Gotta
like
get
I
your
need to.
skates on, Tim.
Man, well, that's okay. I right now I can just focus on talking to all these different
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
and promoting what they did. I have the easy job.
Hmm.
uh,
So,
yeah,
but it's some of these guys though, but like really do. Some of them are like writing machines, like Matt, Josh, like
yeah.
writing. I love writing, but writing takes it out of me.
Well, I will say Matt and Josh are very different in certain ways.
Oh yeah.
They're very productive people, though, for sure. But Josh has like this just super high, energetic vibe about him, as you could tell today when he was on.
Hmm.
Uh, Pastor Matt is a little bit less of that, although he still has an intensity about him, and just obviously incredibly intelligent, both of them. But Pastor Everhard, an experienced pastor, and yeah, he has some. I think someone mentioned they're not necessarily a fan of his, but they'll give it a.
I would say Tony still check in because like we learn things from people even we disagree with, and
Yeah,
there's people I've interviewed in the past, not in Tim's channel, but like there's people I've interviewed in the past where I really really did not like. I won't say I didn't like them, but there was definitely a barrier between us.
right.
And it's only whenever you do sit down with someone sometimes and you're like, okay, let me hear you out, that sometimes those walls come down. Now, if you really don't want to tune in, that's fair. No one's going to force you, and we appreciate your viewership. But yeah, look, come check it out. Anyway, I would say, and
Yeah,
if you
the
don't like,
topic can
yeah,
make a difference too, right?
hmm
Because his last topic, was really focused on, and churches do have different approaches to how they conduct their worship
hmm
services. This is really going to be focused on courage and kind of dealing with how do we interact with the culture around us.
hmm
Um, yeah, so it'll be interesting uh, to hear more about the book. I'm going to probably try to get a copy of it and at least take a look at it before he comes on.
I mean, like I could get the ebook even though I've got a physical copy coming, but I know I won't have time to get very far into it either because I have too much. I have too many things going on throughout this upcoming week. So, but even if I do get the ebook, I might at least get a chapter read or something. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and Tony said he found him too polemic. I understand what you're saying, Tony, and that's part of what I think this book is. He's probably kind of advocating for being a little bit more polemical in certain ways. So maybe he'll make some points that'll
yeah.
win people over. I don't know,
But
but
again, Tony, like you don't feel like you have to tune in. I'm just telling you, like if you want to, you can. And but
no, you better tune in, Tony.
yeah.
Don't listen to Nicholas. I'm just kidding.
But this does happen. Like I see he's joked here about Redeem Simmer too. Like there's a perfect example for me. There's someone that I'm like, do I really want to? Not really. Will I? Yes. So
Every time we brought him up, you've had to explain your reservations. I know.
uh sorry,
Yeah, we got a recommendation for someone there.
yes, and I was just gonna say I'm actually I interact with Brian quite a lot over an X, so yeah, his book True North is good.
Yep.
He would be a
So
good guest to have on, to be fair.
Nicholas will work on making that happen, right?
I won't have to work very hard. I can just ask him now.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, we do like having guests on, and so that'll be next week. Then I think we're going to be right around Christmas time. So the week of Christmas, I'm assuming we won't be having a live stream. Um, I thought this month was going to be really kind of empty, but it ended up being one of the busiest months we've had with all these authors coming out with books.
Hmm.
But yeah, maybe who knows? Maybe that what was his name again?
Brian.
Brian Kuzma. Yeah, maybe he would want to come on either later this month or sometime at the beginning of next year. Would be awesome.
Well, when you say later this month, give me a date and I can ask him.
Well, we could maybe see about. I'm thinking we should try to avoid right before Christmas because Christmas is on a Thursday, so Christmas Eve is a little tough. but maybe we should just wait till beginning of next year.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna wrap things up here. If anybody else has any recommendations for guests, you can always email me at afreshperspective@gmail.com. And Nicholas, if you want to give any, your stuff is Layman Apologist. So
Sorry, I was texting while
I
was
know
talking.
I was just saying if people ever wanted to recommend guests or if they just want to contact either of us.
Oh, the best way to contact me is the apologist layman real at gmail.com.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I see Tony's got some other.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tony, like that guy from Disciple Dojo, if you want to reach out to him, I think you're one of his viewers. Just maybe test out if he's interested,
I was going to say sometimes the
or help
best
get us in
way,
contact.
yeah, the best way you can get people on at times is to actually message them and say, hey, look, these guys would be happy to have you on. Because that's also how I see other live streamers doing it. Like David Wood's a big proponent of that as well. Like people message him all the time and say, oh, you should collab with whoever. And David's response is, well, go you tell them. And then if they want to, yeah, we can set that up because, I see you mentioned Gavin Ortland there as well. Gavin would be a great guest, but like,
I don't know if he has time or if he would.
I was going to say he doesn't do a lot of interviews anyway, so that's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. But the other thing is, Gavin's also quite hard to get a hold of because he doesn't really do DMs or anything like that.
So Alan's mentioned Joyce Meyer. No, Nicholas is refusing that one. That's not going to happen.
I will really be absent for that one.
Yeah,
I don't
know.
think I could control my.
I would be absent too, actually. So
yeah.
That was just a joke, though.
I know.
All right, we will see you all next week, and it's been really fun and great on a Friday to see some extra people here. But we'll be here. We're planning for next Wednesday, and we'll see you then.
Usual time is it though?
4 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
So just calculate according to your time zone.
Yeah.
So midnight or wherever or whatever where you are, right?
Yeah, YouTube does it for me. I don't need to worry. I just need to know when you're planning on going live.
That's right. We're still getting recommendations for some crazy guests here. So
no.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. God bless.
God bless.